Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. I'm Randy Wright, and I'll be your captain on this solo flight special edition of our state-of-the-art radio program. Folks, this will be the final boarding call, so if you please, claim your seats, fasten your seatbelts, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show, while I go ahead and delve into the pre-flight checklist, as there really is a lot of news and information to get to before I may fully indulge you with your in-flight entertainment. Well, folks, as we go further towards the pending November general elections, there's something to be said with respect to the way that the New York billionaire businessman, real estate tycoon, and all-around vulgarian, Donald J. Trump, who also happens to go by two alter egos, that of John Barron and also that of John Miller, with respect to his continued attacks on Texas Senator Ted Cruz. The reason that I bring this up again, folks, is because Trump just is fully incapable of letting things go. He's showing that Trumpery, that of being flashy and showy, but having absolutely no intrinsic value whatsoever, trumps anything else, for lack of a better term. But we see that all of this claim, all of this push for the tyranny of false unity is nothing but a steaming pile of bovine excrement. And I don't mean to be crass, folks, but when you look at the current state of affairs and the way that the mafioso Quafioso has just waltzed in after securing the nomination, and indeed before, throughout the entire primary process, he has developed and adopted a scorched earth tactic and strategy which is leaving the base of the gutless opposition party, or GOP, so very hopelessly divided. And that was, I think, his goal from the get-go. But the fact of the matter remains that Trumpery cannot replace true, lofty political ideals as well as philosophies. And we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, continue to be devoted to empowering you, the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, with the tools to foster that fluent and working knowledge and understanding of our shared United States Constitution, and thereby your fundamental and inalienable God-given rights that will allow you to stand up to any and all of these nefarious forces that want to sit there and try and strip and deprive you or abridge your fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. And make no mistake about it, folks, Donald J. Trump falls into this category of which I speak. There is no other way to describe it other than what he is doing, is being divisive, is being unwilling to go after the true opponent. Now, sure, he'll sit there and claim that he calls her Crooked Hillary. But we've seen that he targets his ads towards Bernie Sanders, who is not running against him any longer. We see that he continues to go out onto the campaign trail to rail against fellow Republicans and not that of the Democrat nominee. And we've already heard from his own lips that he wouldn't actually go after Hillary Rotten Clinton as hard as he did his primary opponents during the entire primary process. That should raise some serious red flags for true, hard-working, decent American citizens from coast to coast and border to border. And the reason that I say that, as I sit here and speak into this microphone, is that it shows that he is more interested in continuing down the same line of philosophy that he has held for the vast majority of his 70 years spent on this earth, that of promoting progressivism, that of being a dyed-in-the-wool Fabian socialist. And as we have so oft-times reiterated on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, these frothing-at-the-mouth Fabian socialist types do not have our best interests at heart, nor do they have them in mind. And that's because, deep down, they loathe and despise the ability of the American people to think for themselves. And just look at the way that Trump has postured himself, that of being this greatly businessman who can fix anything and everything. As if our system of polity in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours was ever designed to be run by a strongman. Truth be told, it's not. That was never what our system of polity was ever intended to be. Yet here we are facing the continued twisted machinations of the mafioso quafioso, who is going out of his way to alienate Ted Cruz supporters, to besmirch and attack a decent constitutional compositionist who has spent his entire life standing up for and defending our fundamental and inalienable rights which were endowed to us by our Creator, who happens to be none other than the God of nature himself. And that should really be getting under people's skins. But we see that the Lion Branch Trumpidians don't care. They will use any and every opportunity to continue to slander decent, hard-working American citizens who do not wish to bend at the knee and to grovel at the feet of their fearless leader, because they want a Trump-totalitarian dictatorship to take hold in the United States of America. But folks, if you stop and think about this for a moment and look at it in an objective fashion, try and put your emotions aside for a minute and just examine this in the totality of the circumstances, you will see that Trump is trying to create this sort of thing. And we in the United States have never fully embraced a totalitarian dictatorship. You know, one of the whole reasons why we amended the Constitution so that the office of President of the United States was limited to 2 terms and 2 terms only was because of the claims during the 30s and 40s that Roosevelt, who had 3 terms and had been elected to a 4th term but died before that could begin, had essentially become a dictator. He had become an American dictator. And isn't it amazing that when you look at what his political positions were, you'll find that he was a frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftist who was dedicated to the overt centralization of governmental authority, thereby creating a tyranny in the land of the free and the home of the brave. That should also be disconcerting. But we see that in this modern state of affairs, in the current arena of American politics, people are just so upset. They've been driven to the point of blind rage and fury that they don't see the forest to spite the trees. And that, too, is dangerous. It's why my first officer, Jeremy Grapenton, and I have sat there on previous episodes and warned of being driven to such anger, to lose sight of your mental faculties, to allow these charlatans, these hucksters, these frauds, these con artists, these carnival barkers and snake oil salesmen to manipulate you. Because that's what they ultimately do. That is what they believe in. That is their modus operandi. And the more we think about it, the more we realize just how dire a threat that really poses to the sanctity and the continued vitality and viability of this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours. And we can ill afford to allow that to occur. But we see that Trump is once again showing that he is a very petty man, a man that does not have the characteristics that I would say are prerequisite for being commander-in-chief of our armed forces and to be the chief executive in these United States of America. But the Lion Branch Trumpidians don't care. They're going to sit there and try and say that because I'm not bowing down at the altar of the almighty Quaff, and that my first officer, Jeremy Grapenton, and indeed our first Air Marshal, Mr. Nelson Ward, are not bowing down at the altar of the great and mighty Oz Quaff, that we're somehow proactively going out there and supporting Hillary, when in fact nothing could be further from the truth. That, too, is the sort of intellectual disingenuousness that we have encountered all throughout this 2016 presidential election cycle. And folks, I'll be frank and honest with you here, I find it sickening, I find it troubling and disturbing. But unless and until we come back to the realization that the ultimate key and solution for the problems that we're facing here in the United States has been with us since the beginning, and that it's none other than our United States Constitution, then we are going to continue to see these sorts of frauds and charlatans try and take the lead within the arena of American politics. Unfortunately, it's sad, but it's true. That is the only way to logically and realistically look at this. And we must be willing to take a stance to defend our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights, because nobody else is endowed with the authority or the power to do so. That falls squarely on our shoulders in our capacities as the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this, our representative republic. So we see that Trump was out at another campaign rally there in, I believe it was Denver, Colorado. Let me flip over to the article and just have a look-see. Yes, it was at a Denver, Colorado party rally, and he used the opportunity to attack Ted Cruz. Now, folks, I don't want you to take my word for it. We've always said that you should look into these things for yourself, and we've also done our part to provide, whenever possible, direct quotations and sound bites of when this snake oil salesman is engaging in this sort of blowhard bluster. So I've got a sound clip here, or a sound bite for you, and I'm going to cue it up now so that you can hear Trump, in his own words, again, repeatedly attacking Texas Senator Ted Cruz. I'm going to bring that up right now, so bear with me, folks, as I get this queued up.
How about these guys that say it all doesn't work, okay? It works. So they asked during one of the debates, they asked Ted Cruz, he was standing right alongside of me, what do you think? And he was very uncomfortable with the question. Then they went, by the way, was that a display of love? Speaking of Ted Cruz, when they booed him off that stage, no, seriously, when they booed him off that stage, the entire Texas delegation booed him off that stage.
Bovine excrement, Mr. Trump. Bovine excrement, Mr. Trump. No, they did not. Quit lying. I know that you have a penchant for lying. I know that that's what you've done for the vast majority of your career, which is a fraud on the American people. But I'm going to sit here and tell you right now that no, the Texas delegates were not there booing Mr. Cruz. I'm going to tell you that we in Texas are very proud of our senator. We don't like quaff-waffling leftist, egomaniacs from New York. We never have, we never will. Why? Because, again, you're the ones that espouse the values of centralized governmental tyranny and authority. It's why you have come out again and said that we should have a $10 federal minimum wage instead of allowing people to contract their own wages. Something that is known as economic due process. When we look at the case of Lochner v. New York, and by the way, Trump, that's your hometown, that's the place where your values come from, and I don't give a flying F what the graduates of Pavlov School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media has to say about it. It is true that you are not a conservative, but in Lochner v. New York, it said that a minimum wage was violative of an individual's economic due process rights. That it is the laborer and the employer's ability to contract over that and to have that as a bargaining chip, that so-called negotiation, that thing that you're supposedly so great with, that thing that we're all supposed to just accept you because that's what you're good with and everything's negotiable, except that you want a federal minimum wage. Guess what? That is not negotiable. But we know that the courts made that decision over 100 years ago. It's still on the books, but the courts ignore it now. They ignore it because they want to say that economic issues have nothing to do with our fundamental and inalienable rights. But if you go back to the Declaration of Independence and look at the self-evident truths that Mr. Jefferson put down in those poetic and artistic words of his, you'll find that it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's property. And by the way, your ability to contract over your own labor, that is your property. That's why we have contracts. That's why you don't just go into employment without some sort of an agreement. That's why we have the legal system. But of course, Trump doesn't understand that. Trump's just about abusing the legal system. Trump's just about serving Trump. And that's all he's ever been about. That's all he's ever believed in. That's all he's ever done. So how is he going to enforce this $10 minimum wage? Well, he's going to use federal agencies. He's going to use taxation. He's going to put private industry in a precarious position. Does that sound like something that a great businessman would do? Why do we keep hearing from the Lion Branch Trumpidians of just how greatly Donald J. Trump, or is that John Barron or John Miller, I don't know on this time of the day, which persona he's accepting as his own? A great businessman. A great businessman that wants to tell you that you can't hire employees at a certain rate. So you're going to have to cut your workforce because guess what? With all of the governmental regulation, and he wants to expand the size of the federal government, by the way, but with all of the government regulation, it's getting that much more difficult for private business owners, especially small business owners, to be able to hire and to keep their staff on payroll. But that's the thing, folks. We see that the Lion Branch Trumpidians and Cheeto Jeebus don't give a damn about the true plight of the American people. This is why he's going out, and now that he's secured the nomination, he's pushing further and further to the left. His trade policy is that of Bernie Sanders. He openly stated that it's the Republican Party, not the Conservative Party, and oh, by the way, he wants to transform the Republican Party into a workers' party, much like the National Socialist German Workers' Party. You see, folks, history is a great teacher. History gives us all the warning signs we need to be able to take whatever steps are necessary to place this country back onto the path to prosperity, or how to avoid a recipe for a perfect storm, a perfect excrement storm. And that's what we're facing with Trump, because Trump does literally represent the perfect excrement storm. He fulfills all of the stereotypical caricatures that the left attempts to pigeonhole the right with in the arena of American politics. Now, Jeremy and I have warned about this time and time again, and yet the Lion Branch Trumpidians continue to suffer from acute ostrich syndrome. That is, they're sticking their head up their posterior instead of the ground, and they think they're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I know it may seem as though I'm being crass as I sit here and speak into this microphone, delivering this message unto you, our cherished listening passengers and audience members. But truth be told, I'm just sick and tired of the double standard. I know that we recently did a show about the double standard that occurs not only in the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media, but also within the rank and file of the gutless opposition party, or GOP. But what we have to keep in mind as we analyze all of this that is unfurling in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours is that the duty and obligation, the onus of saving this country cannot ever be rested in the hands of a singular branch of government, in a singular entity or individual. Because by the very design of our Federalist Republic, it is we the people who bear that duty, obligation, and above all, responsibility. Because if you give that sort of power to a singular branch of government, or a singular entity, or even a singular individual, that grouping, or that individual, or that singularity has the power to then destroy the country and to abridge your fundamental and inalienable God-given rights with carte blanche. Our founding fathers didn't want us to ever allow such a travesty to unfurl in this, the great representative republic they gave us. Stop and think about it again for a moment, folks. The Constitution is the greatest birthright or inheritance of any people on the face of the planet. We are so fortunate to be endowed with it, and our founding fathers meant for us to hand that down to posterity. Again, I point to the statement that Benjamin Franklin made to that young lady at the immediate aftermath of the Constitutional Convention. When she ran up to him and asked him what he had given us, he replied in perfect clarity of vision and foresight, "A republic if you can keep it." Think about that for a moment. A republic if you can keep it. Well, judging by the character of Donald Trump, who does everything in his power to get his way, irrespective of whom he tramples upon in the process of getting what he wants, does that sound like somebody who would have restraint when it comes to the awesome power that the chief executive of the United States of America and the leader of the free world has? Would he be restrained in his characteristics, in his actions, his words and deeds? No, he hasn't shown any of that. In fact, that is the one consistent character trait of his that we've seen throughout his multiple decades of being in the public eye. Folks, we must be vigilant. We must not allow these charlatans to dictate the future and the fate of this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. That's why we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, have been warning about the dangers of Trump for nearly a year now, folks. He does not follow the Constitution. He does not believe in the Constitution. And he's certainly not looking to unify the party. So all of those people who sit there and say that if you go out and vote for anyone other than Trump, or if you write in a candidate, that you are automatically supporting Hillary Clinton, that too is a load of bovine excrement. And the reason I can say that with the perfect clarity that I have is look at Trump's past. I know that there are Lion Branch Trumpidians that say you shouldn't be able to use statements that he made 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whenever. They say because it's so different in business that somehow his being an alleged businessman is a greatly different thing than being within the arena of American politics. Bovine excrement. I'm sorry, folks, but there really is no other way to refer to that other than as sheer unadulterated bovine excrement. The fact of the matter is, he was the one that enabled all of this stuff. He is the one that has gone out and donated countless thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars to people like Hillary Clinton when she was the senator for New York, for people like little Timmy Geithner. All of these people that he's helped, it does not match with what matters in American politics. And it certainly does not match with the message that he has been conveying ever since he officially threw his quaff into the ring last July. Folks, we cannot afford to be bamboozled by this sort of person. And a donor to Hillary Clinton is not a good opponent to Hillary Clinton. The fact of the matter remains that he does not represent our values. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been supporting Terry McAuliffe, the Virginia governor, who is a frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist, as late as 2014. But if we constrained ourselves to the framework that the Lion Branch Trumpidians want to force us into, which has continuously moving goalposts, they'd say that we couldn't mention that that is off limits, that is off the ground, that is out of the charts, having no relation to reality whatsoever. Again, folks, I have to call bovine excrement, because it is the man's past statements, particularly when he has no political record, so to speak, of his past words, deeds, and actions. That's how we measure what he is. That's how we measure what he stands for. And the fact that he's just now suddenly paying lip service to all of these conservative ideals when he has never once done that before, and then his penchant for being consistently inconsistent, at least in regards to our conservative values and of anything of principle, then we see that he's a charlatan, he's a fraud. And of course he's a fraud. Look at the Trump U case. Look at the way that he has gone bankrupt time and again and literally harmed people. He has literally harmed people. Destroyed their fortunes, or their savings, or their dreams. But this is the man that we're going to turn to. This is the man who proclaims that he can save America. That's fluffery, folks. That is puffery. He is puffing himself up. He is trying to make you the marks, and of course, that's why we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, have referred to him on previous episodes as the Pied Piper of disillusioned conservatives. Because if it sounds too good to be true, folks, 9 times out of 10, it is too good to be true. And that's the thing with Trump. There is no honesty to the man. There is no character or conviction to the man. And by the way, I know everyone sits there and tries to say that it's a bunch of ridiculous nonsense to say that Millennia or Malaria, the Czech thumper from Slovenia, had basically plagiarized the speech of Moochie. Moochie, the first, whatever she is, the Wookiee. That doesn't concern people? Oh, because it's platitudes, and anybody can just utter platitudes. Couldn't she have picked somebody better to plagiarize from, other than this destructive Fabian socialist who's been trying to force our youth to eat these just unappetizing, inedible meals at school? Give me an ever-loving break. But now we see that they've also had to take down her public website, her web profile. They had to take it down because there were mentions of her maybe having graduated from Slovenia's top university with a bachelor's in architecture. But there's a book out by Trump that has said that she only took a few years and that she took time off to pursue a career, and I'm going to use air quotes here, but seeing as you can't see me, I'll go ahead and just put it out in the open in audible quotes, a quote-unquote model. Oh, you mean like how she went out in front of GQ magazine's cameras and posed nude on one of Trump's jets as if she's a sexual slave? And boy, doesn't that fit in with the characteristics of a good, decent individual with moral values. A man who cheated on his first wife with his second wife and on his second wife with his third wife. A man who is facing rape charges in a federal court case. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. It's out there, and these are dangerous things that the Hillary camp and all of the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists who are hell-bent on the complete and utter annihilation of the United States, both as a nation and as a people, will use to their advantage. It's why we say that when we come to the general election cycle, we are always at a disadvantage. We are always at a disadvantage because the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialists have their lapdog ally in the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media in their back pocket. Folks, there's no other way to describe it. That is what we are facing here. And it shows no signs of getting better at any time within the foreseeable future. But that is the truth of the matter. That is the crux of the situation that we face right here, right now, as I sit here and speak into this microphone, conveying this message unto you. This is Trumpery. This is trying to turn our electoral process into a reality television program. It's beneath contempt, folks. There really is no other way to describe it other than as being beneath contempt. And it shows that Trump himself holds his own followers, his own rabid followers, with the utmost contempt. I remember that Sean Hannity used to complain about the attempts of the Democrats to push for a federal minimum wage. But now that Trump does it, he's oddly tight-lipped. What about little orphan Annie Yap Yap Toto the Floozy, the lost dog? She's over there ignoring that too. She said that he could go and commit abortions on a White House table, and she'd have no problems with that. Excuse me, Annie, but that's not conservative. That doesn't follow our constitutional guidelines. That doesn't follow the traditions and institutions that we support and are attempting to preserve. But you see, they want a wrecking ball. They just want to destroy the whole damn system. Why? Why do they just find that this is necessary? Again, it's because in the case of someone like little orphan Annie Yep Yep Toto, the lost dog Floozy, it's a chance for her to make profit, because she is already fading into irrelevancy. But let's also mention that for the average citizen who's out there claiming that the quaff waffler, the mafioso quaffioso, supports all that they hold dear and value, they are doing it because they are just so enraged with the gutless opposition party's detente wing lying to them in every election cycle. Remember, the midterm elections of 2014, they made all sorts of promises. We're going to stop Obamacare. We're going to be conservative. We're going to do this. Rah, rah, shish kumbah. But they dropped the ball when Benedict Arnold, Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, gave Obama everything that he wanted in that Cromnibus bill. Enough is enough. But they're going to turn to the one who has essentially enabled these people by being their campaign donor for generations. How does that make any logical sense? Well, it doesn't make logical sense. This is, again, why we have warned on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, that by allowing yourself to be pushed to the point of blind rage and fury, you let go of your mental faculties and thereby become susceptible to manipulation by con artists. Remember that the root of con artist, it comes from confidence man. He gains your confidence, he suckers you, and then he robs you blind. Well, that is what Donald J. Trump is going to do to the Republican Party, and it is going to damage the conservative image and movement. That's why we must remain always vocal in our staunch opposition to the Quaff Commando, because he does not have our interests in mind. He is not about promoting the conservative message. He's certainly not about advocating for the Constitution, which, pursuant to Article 6, Clause 2, is the supreme law of the land. No, he doesn't find any intrinsic or inherent value in it. That's why he admitted back in 2012 in front of the cameras of the graduates of Pavlov School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media that he's never once read it from cover to cover. Folks, you really can't make this stuff up. This is who the man is. This is what the man stands for. It's what he represents. It is like the Fabian Society's original iconography of that of a wolf in sheep's clothing. And folks, you can't ignore that. That is out there. That's part of the record. These deeds, words, and actions are Trump's. They're not ours. We're just going by what the man said. But then you tell us, you Lion Branch Trumpidians, oh, well, he's always going to say crazy stuff. You just have to ignore that. Well, wait, how are we going to know that he's going to be a conservative and that he'll make good choices with the Supreme Court? Oh, well, you just have to trust him. How can we trust him if we can't go by the things he said in the past? Does that make any sense? No, that is sheer lunacy. That is the way to destroy a free society like that of the United States. And that's exactly what the Fabian socialists want to have happen. It's as the great visionary Zygmunt Dobbs warned in his magnus opus of Keynes at Harvard, that these people will use deceptive language, fluffery, puffery, all to just deceive the people as they continually ramp up the overzealous and draconian regulations that they're implementing on the facets of our daily lives, making it so it's all but impossible for us to stay on top of things. They're the ones that push the politics of complexity. And make no bones about it, folks, they want this to be as complex as is humanly possible. That way, they can continue to work in the way that they have in order to push for complete dominance and control. And make no bones about this, folks, Trump is all about dominating. It's why he calls everybody else who's not him or disagrees with him a loser. Does that sound like somebody who has the poise to be the commander-in-chief of our armed forces and to be the chief executive of these United States of America? I want you to stop and seriously ask yourselves this. Oh, well, then they'll say that his choice with Mike Pence, the waffler on immigration, the supporter of Common Core, the man who has sold out his principles to be the Sarah Palin of this election cycle, well, that's going to placate conservatives. Give me an ever-loving break. We know exactly what Mike Pence is. We know what he stands for and represents. We know that he was very tepid and reluctant and even giving his support to Ted Cruz with that endorsement right before the Indiana primary. And we will never forget that betrayal. You see, again, it's the establishment now trying to play the card of outsider. They're trying to play the role. It's a bad charade, and we see right through it. Folks, these people are not looking out for you. They're not trying to place this country back onto the path of prosperity. Why would Trump become magnanimous now when for 70 years he's only ever been about himself? That's all he's ever cared about. Come hell or high water, he would trample on anybody and everybody if it would get him to the top. That means he's willing to say anything to get to the top. It means that we can't trust what he says. It means that he's not a conservative, that he doesn't give a damn about our traditions or institutions. Just look at the stance that he took on the so-called gender-neutral bathroom issue, going after our states that were doing whatever they could to protect us from the pushback from the gay mafia, to try and say that our bathrooms, our public restrooms, just need to be opened up to whatever gender one person identifies with at any given hour of the day. That doesn't make any sense. That goes against the natural order of things, or what is known in the common vernacular as the natural law. And by the way, folks, as we have repeated here before, the natural law forms the bedrock foundation not only of our Constitution, but also of our representative Republican form of government. It's no small feat, folks. It's no coincidence either that there has been this effort to sweep under the rug the true history of the United States. If you look back at the summer of political correctness last summer, when they tried to go after the Southern Cross battle flag in an attempt to say that that was what caused that just ruthless killer, Dylan Storm Roof, to go out and shoot up the the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church there in Charleston, South Carolina, that is, again, just attempting to destroy history. But here's another aspect of what they don't teach, and it's something that we keep repeating on Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, because it is of such a substantial importance that it bears repeating. That our Constitution, and indeed our representative Republican form of government, is the longest contiguous, or uninterrupted, running constitutionally endowed republic in the entire course and scope of human events. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it amazing that that is the central tenet of what makes us great? It goes back to our foundation, and nobody who is within the media right now, other than a select few, is standing up for our traditional values. No one, certainly within the mainstay establishments of the two parties, is standing up for the Constitution. We've got frothing at the mouth Fabian socialists at the top of both tickets. And then we have Mike Pence going out and disagreeing with Trump, sitting there saying that we shouldn't have name-calling within the arena of American politics. Then, Pence, why the hell did you agree to sign up with the guy who's come out with the most vulgar character assassination name-calling? Oh, it's Lion Ted this, Lion Ted that. I built a tower, I got perfect hair, I got smally hands, I'm gonna save America, make it great again. What an idiot. What a buffoon. And then you have the gall, after signing up with him and saying that name-calling shouldn't be part of the arena of American politics. Forgive me, Mike Pence, if I don't have any sympathy for you, and if I just point out your blatant hypocrisy there. You see, that's the thing. This election cycle has become the election cycle of hypocrisy. There is no other way to describe it. They expect us to accept this. They say all of this bovine excrement with a straight face. They're still trying to make us bow down at the altar of the quaff. I'm not going to bow down to the quaff. I'm not going to support something that is built on a Waffle House. Folks, my loyalty is to the United States Constitution. I am going to go and find whatever I can to support the Constitution, and if either of the two mainstay candidates for the highest office in the land do not represent the values of the Constitution, then they do not get my support. It's that simple. It really is that cut and dry. It's not rocket surgery, folks. You don't need Dr. Ben, I'm a victim Carson to figure this out. Although I'm sure he'd try and figure it out, because you recall he went out onto MSNBC and said that he thought that our Second Amendment should be negotiable. I mean, folks, he said this in a representative capacity for the Trump train. Remember, folks, he said this live on MSNBC back in June. But here, I'm going to cue it up for you, because I think it's that important for us to hear, because it really is that significant. So here we go.
Sure. What about the gun protests that we've seen overnight? And where do you come down on that?
Well, I think that the people who were, protesting certainly feel that they are absolutely 100% right. But of course, the people on the other side feel that they're 100% right too. And that's why we need to get back to a point of having civil discussions. Let's put on the table, what is the reason for the Second Amendment?
So there, he was saying that we should negotiate it. He was literally saying that we should negotiate it. No, we shouldn't negotiate it. That is a fundamental and inalienable God-given right. Do you not know what fundamental rights are? Do you not realize that the Bill of Rights is not up for negotiation? Okay, fine. You want to put it on the table? Do it through an Article 5 convention. Amend the Constitution. Oh yeah, that's right. You're not going to be able to do that because you're not going to get people to agree to it. You're not going to get the 3/4 of the state legislatures necessary to vote for it to make that come into reality. But that's the thing. That's what we see with Trump. That's why we say it's so dangerous to say that everything is up for negotiation. It's because they will go out and they will do these sorts of things that have no basis in reality, that are not connected with our true fundamental and inalienable rights, and they will have them taken away from us. They will push to have a centralized governmental tyranny and authority. Folks, we can ill afford to allow that to happen, because there is so much at stake now. There is so much that we cannot just willy-nilly give away. But with Trump, that's what we're going to do. That is why he is the Pied Piper of disillusioned conservatives, because the positions that are being espoused now are not conservative positions. They have never been conservative positions. They are wholly against what we value here. And instead of focusing your attacks on your defeated primary rival, why don't you actually go after Hillary Clinton? Oh, is it because you're still good buddy-buddy with her? Is that why Bill Clinton's locker is still there at one of your golf/strip clubs? Maybe you could go have a party at Epstein's house again there, Trumpy. Wouldn't that be exciting? Maybe you could get another rape charge thrown against you. You see, that's what we're facing. That is the sort of unspeakable candidate, a candidate that engages in acts of moral turpitude, or certainly covers up for them or associates with them. That does not serve the American people. But remember that Trump has never served anybody. Trump has only ever had servants. It's not about us. It's not about our fundamental and inalienable rights. It's not about our system of polity. It's about gaining power for him. And it's about being an ego trip. And either way, he's going to make money off of this. Either way, he's going to try and come home with more billions in the bank. Because we don't even know if he really has billions. We don't know what his liquid status is. We don't know what his true wealth is. That's why Mark Cuban calls him lazy. It's because he just goes out there and tries to do everything off of his brand. Well, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work, folks. That's not how any of this works, to quote that old Geico commercial. But we see that the Lion Branch Trumpidians don't want to look into the truth. They don't want to admit that their candidate has flaws, or they just brush it aside. But these are serious flaws. This will aggravate and irritate the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours. And of course, I speak of none other than we, the people of the United States. It really is that simple. It really is that cut and dry. But unless and until we're willing to admit this, unless and until we are willing to come to terms with what exactly it is that we face, we're not going to be able to overcome these hurdles, adversities, and obstacles, and we're damn sure not going to be able to place the United States back onto the path to prosperity. Because how can you make America great again when, first of all, it hasn't ever ceased being great because we still have the Constitution? But how can you make it great arguing that we have somehow magically ceased being great if you don't know what made us great in the first place? Seriously, that is a question that needs to be answered, and the Lion Branch Trumpidians thus far have not answered it to my satisfaction. Not just my satisfaction, but to all of those who are diametrically opposed to the mafioso quafioso and this hostile takeover of the gutless opposition party, or GOP. That must be addressed. If you want unity, you've got to address that. You've got to address that. You've got to stop all of the chicanery. You've got to stop this ill treatment of true constitutionalists. You've got to stop reaching out for socialists because they are pushing for a system that is not in line with the true natural law tenets that form the bedrock foundation of our republic. But of course, they're not going to do that. That's not what Trump does. Trump will cut his ties and run if he thinks anything's going to go against him. And that's going to be interesting. Because now that he has the nomination, how is he going to cut ties and run if he's going to lose? Oh, he'll try and lie with outlets like Printley and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingbrown and all of these other brown noses to make it seem as though he's going to win and rah-rah shish kebab. But no, this is going to be a disaster because he's even worse than Mitt Romney. Those are just the facts, folks. Those are just the facts as I see them, as I sit here and speak into this microphone, conveying this message unto you. So we must be the ones to be the responsible adults. We must be the ones that are willing to take all of the steps that are necessary and proper to ensure that we do not lose our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. But we're not going to see that. Not with people like Lush Bimbo, who's just out there trying to say that Trump is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know, he claimed that he didn't go out and endorse anybody during the primary process, but clearly the just glowing and gushing coverage that he gave for the mafioso quafioso, when clearly the mafioso quafioso is not standing for conservative principles and values, you know, the very thing that EIB Network is supposed to be about. So that's now acceptable? It's okay for him to go out and trash Cruz? It's bad for Cruz to stand on his principles? Rush, I thought you wanted politicians to stand on their principles. I thought you wanted somebody who was true to what they said, actually meant what they said, that was what's necessary to regain confidence in our system of polity. I know, Rush, it may be difficult. It may be too bigly for you now that you've had the quaffade, but it is, matter-of-factly speaking, exactly what is necessary to place this country back onto the path to prosperity. Not placing our fundamental and inalienable God-given right to keep and bear firearms on the negotiating table. Who in the hell thought that was a good idea? Ben Carson needs to be put back into his unlife coffin there, because he is just this walking epitaph for making everyone sleep. That's how he attacks people. He has to suck the life out of people like a vampire, because otherwise he has no energy. You know, we need to put... Yeah, give me an ever-loving break. Give me an ever-loving break. A man of principle and values. Here's a man who, just like the Cheeto Jeebus, became a Republican the year before he decided to throw his hat into the ring and to run for the highest office in the land. Are we starting to see a pattern here, folks? Because I damn sure am. I really am. This is predictable. This is what we have been warning you about on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, for almost a year now. And this is why I always had reservations with respect to the good Dr. Carson. It's because he is waffly. He's like the mafioso quafioso. He just doesn't get it. None of these people get it. And they don't understand our mindset. You know, for Lush Bimbo to go out there and say that those who cannot stand Trump are all part of the establishment. Hello, Rush. No, we're not. Why is the establishment going behind your orange god? Why are they basically aligning themselves with him? Oh, it's because he supports their ideology. Rush, do you not know what the Constitution is? I know you've paid lip service to it in the past, but do you not know what the Constitution is? Because it sure sounds like you don't. You ought to go talk to your brother. You really ought to go talk to your brother and sort these things out. Because you're just destroying yourself. You're destroying your reputation. You're destroying your radio show. You're losing audience members. And we know that because we've gained them here. And, you know, your loss is our win. You know, all's fair in business. After all, isn't that why we're supposed to bow down to the mafioso quafioso? Isn't that why we're supposed to accept Donald J. Trump, or is that John Barron or John Miller, as this great godly Cheeto Jeebus to save America? To make America great again? We don't buy into it. We don't buy into it because we do research. We look into it, and we are not just loyal to an individual. We are loyal to what our founding fathers said was the only thing that we are supposed to swear allegiance to. The supreme law of the land. In other words, the United States Constitution. I know that's a bit bigly, and maybe a bit abstract for you, so turn up your cochlear implant so that I can repeat it for you. We are loyal not to a candidate, not to a person or an individual, because if you recall, the United States of America is a nation of laws and not of men. We are loyal to the Constitution. Nothing more, nothing less. And so therefore, we want to see all levels of government return to strict adherence to the clear and concise language contained within the four corners of our shared United States Constitution. It's not difficult. Literally, it's not. Seriously. It is not a difficult concept to fathom. And you know what's amazing, folks? HotAir.com has put out something where it said that Trump's advisors were mystified over new endorsement of a $10 an hour federal minimum wage. Now, this is back on July 28th, and it basically starts off saying that at one point in the campaign, Donald Trump argued that America had lost its competitive edge because, in part, wages got too high. In fact, not only did he make that declaration during the November debate, according to Hot Air, he doubled down the next day on the argument. And Alafundit noted this at the time. But now, all of a sudden now, things are different. And so, let's, again, put it in his own words here, folks, so that you can hear what he said in the past at 2 separate occasions, and then what he's saying now to show that he's consistently inconsistent, because he really, literally is, folks. There's no way around it.
I can't be, Neil. And the reason I can't be is that we are a country that is being beaten on every front, economically, militarily. There is nothing that we do now to win. We don't win anymore. Our taxes are too high. I've come up with a tax plan that many, many people like very much. It's going to be a tremendous plan. I think it'll make our country and our economy very dynamic. But taxes too high, wages too high. We're not going to be able to compete against the world. I hate to say it, but we have to leave it the way it is. People have to go out, they have to work really hard, and they have to get into that upper stratum. But we cannot do this if we are going to compete with the rest of the world. We just can't do it.
So do not raise the minimum wage.
I would not raise the minimum.
Dr.
Non-competitive. I would love to say make it $50 an hour. I think it's great.
I understand.
You know what? It's a tough position politically. I mean, the best thing for me to say, I'm running for all of a sudden for the last 4 months. The first time in my life, I'm a politician. I can't believe this. I'm a politician. I never respected politicians. Now,
but Donald, do you have people?
Does that mean that we can finally put to rest this lie that he's not a politician? But you saw that. He said that we shouldn't be, raising the minimum wage, that that's what's harming us, and that he doesn't support it. You heard it at the debate, and then again in the morning after on Morning Joe or whatever. But now, we've got the soundbite of what he's saying now. It's a totally different message. It's so amazing. It's so bigly. He's going to build a tower. He's against minimum wage hikes, but now he's for them because he's the mafioso quafioso. And he's the quaff waffler.
The minimum wage has to go up. People are at least $10, but it has to go up. But I think that states should really call the shot. As an example, I live in New York. It's very expensive in New York. You can't buy a hot dog for the money you're talking about. You go to other states and it's not expensive at all. Now, what it does is puts New York at a disadvantage if the minimum wage is like companies move out and things, bad things happen. At the same time, people have to be taken care of. But what I'm really going to do on the minimum wage, but it has to go up. Now, Bernie Sanders lied. Bernie Sanders said in his speech the other day that Donald Trump wants the minimum wage to go below $7. I said, where did he come up with that one? That one is just like Joe Biden lied today. He said that Donald Trump wants to carpet bomb. He was on television. He said Donald Trump wants to carpet bomb the enemy in the Middle East. Now, that was Ted Cruz that said that. That was not Donald Trump. I mean, he's not a very bright guy, but that was Ted Cruz that said it.
Not a very bright guy? I'm sorry, Donnie, but you don't have a postgraduate degree. Not a very bright guy. Is that why you make up words like bigly? Is it because you're so brilliant? Is it because you're so wonderful and you're so intelligent? Go to hell. We're sick and tired of your crap. And that's why we will never support you. That's why nobody who is honest will ever support you. Because you do not stand for everything that we hold near and dear in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. But you can't keep your story straight. You can't keep a position straight because you have no core values or principles. You have no morality whatsoever. And instead of attacking Ted Cruz, why don't you go after your opponent? You idiot! You moron! Yes, that's right, folks, he is a moron. Only morons would make up words like bigly that have no place in the dictionary, that don't exist. Spell checker puts that red squiggly under it. Oh, but Cruz, who went to Ivy League schools, Cruz, who memorized the Constitution at a very young age, and has gone up and argued in front of the Supreme Court more times and won more times than any other licensed Texas attorney. He's not very bright? Oh, that's projection. Trump, we know you're inadequate. That's why your hands are small. That's why you circle it in gold and keep sending them back to the photographer that originally took them back in the 1980s. You can't get over it because you are that weak-minded, that thin-skinned. So you will nuke Denmark if you had the chance, if somebody irritated you. Instead of attacking Cruz, attack Biden. Oh, that's right, you like Biden. You and Biden share an ability to just have these off-the-cuff gaffes as though that's what is accepted in modern society. Give me an ever-loving break. You are disgusting. And you're just as dangerous. No, you are more dangerous than Hillary Rotten Clinton. Neither one of you are acceptable. And again, as we have so oft times repeated on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, the only thing that we swear allegiance to here is the United States Constitution. And it's clear. It's absolutely clear that you have no allegiance to it. There can be no question that you do not support the United States Constitution, because everything you're doing, everything you say, every little action that you put forth, it has no connection with reality. And you don't consistently support it. And then, because you throw out so many different things, you try and walk both sides of the aisle. You try to make that fashionable. You try to say those things with a straight face because you think that that will convince us to support you. Nothing could be further from the truth. Trump, you do not represent us. And that is why we can't support you. Because you are the deceitful Don. You are Don Trumpolini, the mafioso quafioso who has no connection to reality. And you're not going to put this country back onto the path to prosperity. You're just looking to enrich yourself. You are just looking to basically take your hand, stick it into the cookie jar, and run away like you always do. That is what you are. You're not a great negotiator. A great negotiator would know when things are non-negotiable, such as our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. A great negotiator would know that by trying to force a federal minimum wage of $10 an hour, because you yourself said that the states are different, but you said state, federal, state. Well, $10 an hour is going to kill small businesses in the state of Texas. It would kill small businesses in other states as well. Instead of allowing the private sector and the market to handle it, you don't believe in the market. You believe in governmental tyranny. You essentially are pushing for Keynesian economics on steroids. And as we all know, what the visionary Zygmunt Dobbs said in his magnus opus of Keynes at Harvard, Keynesian economics is just a front for frothing at the mouth Fabianism. And that's why you've supported Fabianism for the vast majority of your 70 years spent walking God's green earth. That's why we can't trust you. You're not trustworthy. You have given us no reason to support you. You have given no reason for us to believe that you will do what you claim. You've even come out and said that everything that you've suggested in this primary process, and indeed until you're elected president, are mere suggestions, meaning that you could change it at any time, that you could change your position at any time. That's right, folks. He did say that. He literally said that everything he said is a mere suggestion.
And then you walk back the other day and say, listen, that was a suggestion, but you're going to put together a commission headed by Rudy Giuliani. Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, it was a suggestion. Look, anything I say right now, I'm not the president. Everything's a suggestion. No matter what you say, it's a suggestion. I feel strongly we have to do something about, when you look at radical Islamic terrorism, we have a president that, as you folks know very well, we have a president who won't even use the term. For the World Trade Center, he won't use the term.
There it is, folks. Everything I say is a suggestion. And then he tries to deflect. He always tries to deflect, to take things off of himself, to try and make it as though what he's doing is always perfect, that he can make no mistakes. And that's why the Lion Branch Trumpidians just eat this stuff up. They gobble it up because they think that's the way he is. They think that that's how he's going to run the country, and that that's going to be hunky-dory, that everything's going to be fine just because of that. Give me an ever-loving break. Folks, if we are ever going to get this nation back onto the path to prosperity, we are going to have to realize that what we have to do, both as a nation and as a people, is come together in solidarity and unity in support of the supreme law of the land. And that is certainly not what Donald Trump is doing. Trump does not give a damn about the supreme law of the land. In fact, he says that those who do, like how he called Ted Cruz an idiot, are idiots. Well, no, he is the idiot here. He's the idiot because he doesn't understand what is truly significant to our system of polity. He's the idiot who tries to pass off his little bachelor's degree from the Wharton School of Business as some sort of a postgraduate degree. He is the intellectually disingenuous one here, folks, and that's the man we want to have as the Republican candidate? That's the man who's been selected as the gutless opposition party or GOP nominee? What in the hell is wrong with us? What in the hell is wrong with the Republican Party? Why do they think that's viable? Unless, of course, their entire initiative here is to destroy conservatism, is to get the constitutionalists out, to destroy the constitutionalist movement, to say that constitutional compositionists are not welcome within the rank and file of the Republican Party. Fine. You want to play it that way. You can play it that way, but do not expect us to just go down without a fight. You will pay. You will pay tenfold for what you have done, rinse and repeatus. And the same goes for you, Donaldolph Julius Caesar Trumpellini. In fact, all of the revenues for your hotels, people checking in, it's been literally halved since you threw your quaff into the ring. It has literally been halved because people don't like you. It's that simple, Donnie. People don't like you. You've got smally hands. You built a tower. It's great and wonderful, but you're a vulgarian and kind of not that intelligent. I mean, it really comes down to that. And, you know, I'm from New York, and therefore, oh, well, you can't talk about New York values. That's attacking 9/11. Yes, that's a politically correct stunt I'm pulling, but, you know, I am the candidate against political correctness because I'm the mafioso quaffioso, man. Give me an ever-loving break. That's intelligent? That's intelligent? You have the gall to attack a sitting United States senator as an idiot when you yourself make up words like bigly. And you can't even string together a coherent sentence. By the way, folks, I'm sitting here speaking into this microphone. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have a script. But I bet you can make out what I'm saying. I bet you can follow that I have a cohesive message, something that's easily followed that goes from one point to the next. That's something Trump can't do. That's something Trump struggles with. And then, of course, his daughter out there on the convention stage back in Cleveland, Ohio, was sitting there basically giving credence to this phony baloney nonsense of the so-called Republican war on women. Now, where is Lush Bimbo? Because he used to really rail against that. Remember the whole Sandra Fluck issue? Remember how that was all part of it? But, well, now that little Donita up there, Ivanka Trump, has said all this, not word one from the EIB network. No, not a single word from the effeminate idiot broadcasting corporation. No, instead, he goes out and he praises Trump for attacking Ted Cruz the next day. Just laughable. The effeminate in broadcasting corporation will never be able to recover from this sort of nonsense. People have longer memories than what he gives them credit for. People are going to have even longer memories because we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, at our state-of-the-art radio program, that haven't sold out our soul, that haven't given up on conservative principles, we will remind you. That's what we're doing. That's why I pulled up these statements from Trump's past. Now, maybe the Lion Branch Trumpidians want to move the goalposts yet again. Well, we know we're not supposed to look at what he said 30 years ago. And we're not supposed to look at what he said 5 years ago or 2 years ago. Maybe now we're not even supposed to look at what he said 4 months ago or 2 days ago or 2 seconds ago. These sorts of moving goalposts is the type of argument that you get from the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists who are hell-bent on the complete and utter annihilation of the United States of America, both as a nation and as a people. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. It's out there. It's out there. And here's the other thing. Everyone says that Trump's going to bring jobs back to America, this, that, and the other. Why is it that Trump has never had an American wife? Just have to ask that. Why is it that Trump has not had a wife who was born in the United States? So he's going to stop illegal aliens, but he sits there and doesn't find American women good enough? Oh, that's right. He just rapes American women. That's right. That's why that case is up there. At least he gets alleged of it or charged with it, but he's going to make America great again. Folks, you just have to laugh at this stuff. You have to laugh at it because it's sheer and utter, unadulterated nonsense. It's bovine excrement. And we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, are dedicated to providing you with the truth. Because the truth always has a way of shining through. The light of truth always has a way of shining through. It's why Aristotle said in his Art of Rhetoric that the truth is much easier to be accepted by the people than a lie. Now, I'm sure that Trump's going to go out and call the philosopher King, as he was known, an idiot too, because it disagrees with him. I bet he doesn't even know who the man is. It's too bigly for him. He'd find no inherent value in reading it. That's all right. He can go back to his tower and sit there and spin and rotate for all I care. But for all of the reasons that I have shown here, and that my first officer and I have shown in previous episodes, and even our first Air Marshal, Mr. Nelson Ward, have shown on previous episodes, that explains fully why we cannot, in good conscience, support the mafioso quafioso. The quaff waffler does not represent our values. And again, it's because we are allegiant to the only thing that our founding fathers said that we should ever, in our capacity as the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, swear allegiance to. The United States Constitution, the supreme law of the land, that very thing that has propelled us to such lofty heights in our relatively brief yet illustrious history as a representative republic. But Trump doesn't get that. No, Trump doesn't understand that, and Trump doesn't care about that. Instead, he's more interested in continuing these slimeball attacks against Texas Senator Ted Cruz. That's going to give us unity? Oh, well, all of the Texas delegates were there booing Cruz. Yeah. I'm lying, of course. And that's the other thing. He knew exactly what was in that speech. He approved it. And then he sits back and says, I built a tower and he didn't support me. He didn't come out and endorse me. Oh, my smally hands are melting. My bigly brain is blowing up. Because he's not that smart. Trump, you know what your problem is? Your problem is that you can't stop being who you are. And that we see through the facade. We see through all the bovine excrement that you've put up to attempt to shield yourself from any type of disagreement, for any type of conflict. Sure, you go out and you brazenly attack anyone who disagrees with you. You know what that masks? That masks your lack of intelligence. Why don't you talk about the issues, you moron? And yes, I just engaged in an ad hominem attack. But apparently that's all the rage now. That's why the mafioso quafioso is the darling of the detente wing of the gutless opposition party. And Lush Bimbo thinks that those of us who stand up against him are now part of the establishment. I've got a special message for people like that. It's all put up in a pretty little package, right with a bow on top. When you open it up, you're going to see some words. And those words say, go to hell. That's right. Go to hell. Because you do not stand for and represent the United States of America. You are not defending our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. In fact, you are doing everything in your power to try and pit American citizen against American citizen, and I, for one, am sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of these Fabian tactics being crammed down our throats, and we're supposed to just roll over and accept it as if this is the way that the future of our party is supposed to be? Give me an ever-loving break. That is not the United States of America. That is not what propelled us to the lofty heights. And he's doing everything he can to get away from that. That's why he supported the no-fly, no-buy, and if you mention due process, we cry. trying to strip people of their fundamental and inalienable God-given rights of the Second Amendment to keep and bear firearms, to have due process under the law, to face their accusers. No, all of that just gets thrown away. But if anybody ever says one thing against him, I'm going to open up the libel laws, we're gonna sue media people because the First Amendment, that doesn't matter, but if people protest against me, that's against my First Amendment rights. I built a tower, after all, I'm the mafioso quafioso. That is not what it takes to be president of the United States. And then, yes, he did say that he wanted to attack terrorist families without any direct causational connection to terrorist acts. Yes, we don't like the Islamo-fascists. But there are international agreements that we're part of, such as the Geneva Convention, which, by the way, he came out and said was antiquated. So if he thinks the Geneva Conventions are antiquated, that tells you exactly what he thinks of the Constitution, which is even older than the Geneva Convention. Oh. And he thinks that we ought to just get out of NATO, but he's fine with Russia. That's why he calls for Russia. Now, granted, it's a joke, but it's a bad joke, to provide us with Hillary's emails, to further hack us. But because he is such a brash vulgarian, what is clearly, or what should clearly be a joke, an off-color joke that's still in bad taste. Of course, Trump has no taste. Just look at that thing on the top of his head. But that's why there are those who take that seriously, who think that that is a serious threat. And in some ways, I don't blame them. Look at what the man does. Look at the man's characteristics, and look at the man's character, or more aptly, lack thereof. That's what we are facing in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. And folks, it shows no signs of getting better at any time within the foreseeable future, other than he will lose to Hillary. But what is that going to give us? How is that going to help us? And then everybody who's going to sit there and say that he's going to do this for the Supreme Court, we got to do it. In fact, he himself came out and said that we don't have a choice. That's right, folks. Trump literally came out and said, we don't have a choice. This is that tyranny of false unity. But, because of the Supreme Court, sorry, he said, that's just why we all have to bow down at the altar of the quaff. No, we don't. Because detente members and leftist Republicans, and even decent Republicans, have a track record of giving us justices that aren't conservative. And just like you said, everything that you say is just a mere suggestion, so why are we supposed to all of a sudden accept that as the truth? Why are we to take that as a vow? You don't vow anything. You're the quaff waffler. So, forgive me, but I do have a choice. And my choice is to tell you straight where to go. To hell. And I hope you enjoy your trip there. It's a one-way trip. You get a one-way ticket there, Trumpy. One-way ticket. But yes, he did say that we don't have a choice. Oh, isn't that amazing? Yeah, it was within the Hill. He said 2 days ago that if you really like Donald Trump, that's great. But if you don't, you have to vote for me anyway. You know why? Supreme Court judges. Supreme Court judges. And he was saying this at a rally in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. You have no choice. Sorry. You have no choice, Trump continued. And he then called Antonin Scalia a great guy, but remember, in the past, he said that he was terrible. So again, he's waffling here. And then he said, but we'll probably have 3, could be 4, could even be 5, could be a tower. I have smally hands, appointments to make to the Supreme Court, alluding to the ages of these senior justices. Oh, so now Trump, who is himself 70 years old, is going to try and do all of that. But you see, that's the thing. He's again putting up a false dichotomy. He's trying to sit there and say that we don't have a choice, that we just need to sit down, bow down to the altar of the almighty Cheeto Jeebus. Well, screw that. That's not what I'm going to do. That's not what any true constitutionalists will do, because once again, Trump has shown, time and again, that he is not loyal to the supreme law of the land, the United States Constitution, that everything that he's talking about here is about himself, that that's all he's ever cared about. And that's all that he still cares about, and that's all he will ever care about, and therefore he is not qualified to wield the reins of political power in the United States of America. That's literally what it comes down to, folks. That's literally what we have to come to terms with, because Donaldolph Julius Caesar Trumpolini is not looking out for our best interest. And that's why we have been warning about him here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, for nearly a year now, folks. He is not who he claims to be, he is not standing up for us, and he is continuing to attack conservatives instead of going after Hillary Clinton, which is exactly what we said he would do. We did say that he would never really go after her, that this was not in his repertoire. That his entire goal here was to hopelessly divide the conservative movement or base of the gutless opposition party, or GOP, so that his pal Hillary Rotten Clinton could be a shoo-in to the White House. And his characteristic behavior shows that that is exactly what he's attempting to do. That's what he's been dedicated to this entire 2016 presidential election cycle. Folks, it's there, it's clear as day to see from his own words, deeds, and actions. Oh, but that's right, the Lion Branch Trumpidians don't want us to pay attention to his words, his deeds, or his actions, unless they were like 50 milliseconds ago, or has that now changed too? We must be cognizant of the fact of what it is that he is orchestrating upon this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. He is the one that is going to push for even more Fabianism. Fabianism should not be welcomed in the United States because it is diametrically opposed to all that we hold near and dear, both as a nation and as a people. But none of that matters to Trump. None of that certainly matters to the Lion Branch Trumpidians. That is why we are in this untenable, unsustainable position that we find ourselves in right now. That is the precarious cliff that they have pushed us to. But it's not in our best interest. It's not going to bring America back to prosperity. I don't even think the man's smart enough to know how. Clearly he's not, because the way you do it is to go back to the Constitution, to release the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, we the people, from the chains and shackles of governmental tyranny, bondage, servitude, and oppression. But that hasn't once crossed Trump's mind. During his whole little meandering hour-plus speech at the convention, it was government this, government that, rah-rah, shish-kebab, big government, we love government. Well, that's not going to take us back to the path of prosperity. Government is the problem. What happened to that notion of the scariest words in the English language being, I'm here from the government, and I'm with the government, and I'm here to help? The government is more often than not the problem, not the solution to the problem. But Trump can't wrap his coiffed brain, his hair brain, around that. It's too bigly for him. Have to break it down into bite-sized chunks. Maybe he could get it. Maybe he could get either John Miller or John Barron to explain it to him. But probably not. Maybe the rocket surgeon, Dr. Ben I'm a Victim Carson, could explain it to him. But again, I'm highly doubtful. What about little orphan Annie Yep Yep Toto the Floozy, the lost dog, and William Randolph Drudgy? Maybe they could explain. No, I don't think so. They just want to obfuscate the truth. They just want to go out and lie. They just want to play the same games that the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists, who they claim to be against, play. Well, enough is enough. The American people are sick and tired of this. This was our election cycle to win, and they put this moron up. And no, this isn't being butthurt, you stupid Trumpidians. This is pointing out the truth. This is pointing at just what a flawed candidate you have forced upon us, and now you want us to accept him. No, we don't have to accept him, because we are smart enough to know that we can vote our conscience. And by the way, when, not if, but when Hillary Rotten Clinton wins, that one's on you guys. It's on you and Der Trumpenführer. It cannot be laid at our feet because we had warned. We had warned for nearly a year just what a dangerous sociopath this mafioso quafioso really is. And the fact that you chose to disregard that, the onus of that is on you. The responsibility for that is on you. And we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, will hold you accountable. Just as we expect everyone to hold us accountable for the things that we say. That's what you need to be a free society. That's what self-policing means. But we've gotten away from that as we've embraced the twin cancerous doctrines of political correctness and moral relativism. And that has been working against us time and again, over and over again, to the point of where it's impossible to tell what's right and wrong because they don't want you to know what's right and wrong. That's why they engage in moral relativism. That's why historical revisionism is running rampant in our institutions of education from coast to coast and border to border. It's because of the radical, twisted, Fabian socialist agenda, and yes, Donald J. Trump is a part of that. It may be unwitting, but I personally think it is witting. Why else would he have had the Clintons at his wedding? Why else would those pictures be there to be plastered everywhere? It's not about us. At least not to him. That's like why he was over there in Scotland during the whole Brexit issue. And he misquoted it again, but, you know, Ted Cruz is not intelligent. Yeah, spare me. Spare me. We know the truth. And we want you to know the truth. That's why we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, are dedicated to empowering you to foster that fluent and working knowledge and understanding of both our shared United States Constitution and also your fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. That's what it's going to take to bring America back from the brink of ruin. But Trump doesn't believe that. Trump has shown time and again that he doesn't believe that. That's why he's consistently inconsistent. That's why he's the quaff waffler. And his entire campaign is not even built on a house of cards, it's built on a Waffle House. And dandruff is the flavor of the month. But that is not what is going to bring America back. We've said time and again here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, what will bring us back, and that is the Constitution. That is the key. That is what has been with us since the inception of our country some 235 plus years ago. Now, I'm sorry that Trump doesn't seem to understand this, that Trump has no willingness to learn about this, that Trump then wants to reach out to Bernard Bernie Sanders, the flying saucer. But again, folks, that's not going to help us. We must help ourselves. That is the important message. We must take on the onus of responsibility of our duty, obligation, and above all, responsibility as the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours. There is no choice on that. That is one of those non-negotiable things. Now, yes, Trumpy's going to sit there and say it's negotiable, but no, that is one of those intrinsically non-negotiable, non-delegable duties, obligations, and responsibilities. And that's what we have to come to terms with. If we are ever to right the course in this country, we have to reject this sort of lunacy that is becoming par for the course with the gutless opposition party or GOP. Donald Trump does not represent us. And that is going to come to fruition as we get closer and closer to November. Mark my words, folks, he is going to run further to the left. We said he would do this, and he is proving us right. And, of course, he's not going to change course, not on that. because the one truly consistent thing about him before he decided to throw his quaff into the ring was that he supported Fabian socialist agendas and causes for decades, just decades upon decades. Well, enough is enough. Enough is enough. The mafioso quaffioso does not represent the Constitution, which is the key. He doesn't adhere to it, but that's what we must adhere to if we are ever going to restore the United States of America back to the path of prosperity. And with that said, folks, it is time for us to begin our descent. I'm going to go ahead and send the flight attendant back for one last round of alcohol. I guarantee you, folks, she will not flip-flop. She's just there to pour alcohol. As always, folks, I'm your captain, Randy Wright, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you for choosing to fly the Wright Flyer. I invite you to leave any questions, comments, or concerns you may have either here on our YouTube page or our Google Plus page or our Facebook page. And on top of that, I invite you to follow us at Twitter with the Twitter handle @RadioAviationEX. One more time, folks, that's @RadioAviationEX, and there you'll find the departure board that lists both my first officer Jeremy Grapenton and my own personal Twitter accounts, the Blogspot page that has audio blogs and it's chock full of useful information that's probably too bigly for Trump, and then there's the Cafe Press account where there's all sorts of trinkets and goodies, clothing with our traditional logo on it or our first class passenger logo on it, drinking glasses, shot glasses, hats, clocks, apparel of all types. Surely you'll find something there of your liking and at a reasonable price. Go ahead and give us a little bit of support, folks, because after all, we do these shows for you, and it's also to support you. Once again, folks, thank you for choosing to fly the Wright Flyer. We will see you next time. Do take care.